the Fisher Protocol, the show where saying that Who is the greatest rock and roll band of all time is not subjective, but everything else is. Please take a quick second to like, subscribe, and share us with your Who-minded friends. The Who is a passion of ours. This is more of a personal journey, and no money is made from these videos. So liking and subscribing lets us know we're not alone in Who land. Constructive feedback is always welcome, either in the comments below, or you can follow me as I spout Who-related content on X and Instagram at Fisher Protocol. I'm Ethan. I'm being joined today by my best Who friends, Tom and Betts. We do not claim to be experts, just three fans who like to talk about the greatest rock and roll band of all time, The Who. Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
What's going on?
Long time, no talk.
Exactly. Good to be back.
It is good to be back. Okay, so today we are here to talk about Pete Townshend in concert 1985 to 2001, but we haven't seen each other in quite a while. So really quick, have you guys had any... we talked personal, but let's talk any Who related things in the past few months that we haven't talked on that you guys experienced or want to comment or yeah.
Don't think so. This was the thing I was looking forward to the most.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to this. But we got a ballet coming. We got The Seeker coming, which is a play of some kind, I think. We have Phil Daniels back on House of the Dragon, which I count as Who related content.
Yeah, and he did it. He was at Quadrophenia Alley in Brighton with the guy who plays Ferdy. And they
doing
were
what, like any kind of charity thing, or was it like a charity thing, or?
I think it was, and I think they're kind of buddies in real life, which is kind of cool.
Word, yeah. What else did I see? There was something else I saw that I was going to bring up.
We got a new John set.
New John set, Exhumed, right? Exhumed 2. Our best friends are talking through the press again, so I assume that means we'll get some kind of action here in the next year or two.
Yep.
Yeah. A couple magazine covers for Pete, right? What was he promoting? I forgot.
Oh, we got the Quadrophenia Ballet coming up.
The ballet, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was supposed to talk to you guys. I didn't do it, but I saw Roger Daltrey.
Tell us all about it, Ethan.
Okay. Well, I went alone. I went old school, like a loner, kid going alone to the Who concert. I sat right next to the soundboard. KT Tunstall opened, and she was great. She's got a couple hot songs, and it's always watching her do Black Horse in a Cherry Tree live with that loop pedal has always been like an ambition of mine, so I got to do that. As I was walking to my seat, I saw Katie Jacoby in the crowd, I guess talking to family, and I wanted to go up, but she was with family, and I got nervous. Simon Townsend was in the band with my favorite guitar of his Chet Atkins, so that's always fun. Also, Mike, I believe his moniker is Boston Who fan, if I remember correctly. He got in contact with me while I was there, like a fan of someone who watches this show. And
that's cool. Hi, Mike.
Meet me and say hi. And while I was very socially awkward about it, I went and met him, and it was very cool. It was very cool, even though I was, it was just great. Him and his brother were there, and they drove down, and we chatted for a little bit before the show.
That's cool.
It was really cool. And I posted a picture of it. It's on Facebook. He took a picture of us. It was really awesome. It meant a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
But as far as like Roger Daltrey himself, right? When we talk about these Pete Townshend sets, we're going to talk about banter. And he said he would answer questions. Roger Daltrey said he would answer questions. And man, he went through a lot of questions, and he answered a lot of questions. He did a lot of talking. I really liked it. The selection was good. The band was good. Did you guys hear
House
that?
gremlin. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not a house gremlin. That's a cat.
Yes, we are beset by them right now.
All over the place. The set escapes me. There was some McVicker. I wish I had prepared to go in more detail, but I had a good time. It was Roger Daltrey. It was great.
Nice.
And he sounded amazing, I'm sure.
He sounded amazing. His voice was that of a much younger man. Everybody sounded amazing, but and they were having fun up there, and Jody Linscott was with him. Billy Nichols was with him. Katie Jacoby, and then some folks I hadn't heard of, and it was really cool. And we're going to talk about Jody a little bit as we get into the Pete Townshend box. So let's get into it.
Okay.
This came out. Oh God, it's over here. I put it all the way over here. Now it has cat hair on it. Okay, so the Pete Townshend box.
There it is.
Concert 1985, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely have to think twice when I buy Who things these days. I didn't think twice about it. The price was really good. It was like $110 or something like that.
Not bad.
And I went for it right away. But then I quickly realized I had it. Most of it. Digitally through the years. All these things were released on EelPie website. Physically, I already had Fillmore and the two La Jolla shows. And it's some of my favorite stuff ever. And we'll go over each individual one, but it's a beautiful package. It's an amazing package. It basically just recreates them, except it says Universal Music, where EelPie normally would be. And but it also has liner notes by friend of the show, Matt Kent, which is always fun to say.
Nice. That's worth it alone for the purchase price.
Before we go through it concert by concert, we're not going to go track by track, but we will go concert by concert with some thoughts. Tom, have you heard any of these before?
Obviously the Brixton Academy stuff I'd heard, a good bit of that, and then the Fillmore stuff you'd sent me at some point. But that's it though. I haven't heard any of the other stuff before, which is kind of fun. So I've struggled over the years to go down the rabbit hole of bootlegs and finding stuff that just isn't easily accessible. So to get my hands on this stuff was really fun.
How about you, Beth?
I had the Deep End Live CD. This was sort of terra incognito for me because this is kind of where I fell off on the Who these years. I was more into, like I've told you guys before, punk and, goth and all that kind of thing. So I kind of had fallen off. So this was all relatively brand new to me, except for Sadler's Wells, which was where I owned a copy of Lifehouse Elements and played the hell out of it. So Sadler's Wells, when we get, that was the one real standout for me. I really love that show, and we'll talk more about that. But a lot of this was rediscovering a lot of stuff I had not heard before, discovering it for the first time too.
All right, well, we'll go in chronological order, and I believe the first one would be Brixton Academy, 1985, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. This was released in a much truncated version, I guess, I believe. And guys, this is surely from memory. So if I get some of this wrong, let me know, okay?
I'll call you out, Ethan. I will call you out.
Call me out. Nicely call me out in the comments. Okay. Don't go on there and tell me that my
Ethan.
Forget it. I won't go into it.
Well, actually, no, yeah.
Deep Townshend, and I have to think, and I couldn't find it because my CDs are away right now, that latest Pete Townshend face-to-face from a year or two ago, a Record Store Day release, was the same show-ish group of shows. So it's much truncated here. It's a yellow one. It's got tons of stuff. It looks to be, if I'm guessing right, it's Deep End. It's the time including David Gilmour, right? And it's kind of post Chinese Eyes and White City.
Yeah.
So it's got a bunch of those things on it. What do you guys think?
Awesome. Good stuff. Love it. It was definitely fun kind of filling in the holes of what I've heard before. You know what I mean? Like the Deep End stuff. Yeah, I had all that obviously, but to hear all the other little bits and pieces in there was great. Good high energy show. Tight band. Can't ask for much more.
That's what did you think?
I loved it. It was such a departure from, I feel like, The Who. And one thing I want to say about all of these shows is that the enthusiasm, the ebullience, the effervescence of these shows, it's so markedly different. I'm not going to say Pete had a bad time with The Who, but this was like he can do what he wants and he doesn't have to worry about how to play against John or how to play against with Roger, that kind of thing. And so Pete as band leader, and that's kind of what Gilmore was saying, was that, you know, Pete didn't want to be the guitar guy, and that he and in a lot of these shows kind of refused to play electric guitar, but that Pete didn't want to be that guitar hero guy, but more band leader and musician and that kind of thing. Kept sitting on my notes. And so you see a lot of that, like he's the band leader, and I can't help but think kind of like how he wanted to be a little bit maybe, you know, in the tradition of his father, who was also in a big sort of band, the Squadronaires, you know, that this is like that big band. And it's a lot of fun, you know, and he got to explore a lot more than he would have done with The Who, a lot more jazz and a lot more blues and that kind of thing. He's having a really good time. These are infectious shows.
I don't agree on all of them, but I agree on most of them. Okay.
Okay.
And like this one specifically, you know, sometimes he shoots himself in the foot because it's like, okay, we do all this, and here I'll do a Who one, and we're not going to rehearse that. I'll just come out and do it.
Yeah.
So sometimes that catches them, and that gives us the good old Pete Townsend lyric reorganizing, as I like to call it.
Yes. So you see that a lot later on. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, big time.
Big time.
Yeah. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, especially with stuff like Barefoot and Harlem Shuffle. Like he gets to almost do this, you know, almost Bruce Springsteen-y like horn intro to things, and just have the whole band playing.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, how are you on Blue Light? I know it's the Gilmore, it's the long Gilmore one in the middle. Do you remember it?
Yeah. It was that was a new one for me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I sort of enjoyed it, but like if I'm gonna sit there and go, oh, Pete Townsend, David Gilmour, yeah, I mean, Give Blood is really hard to beat. So
Well,
Blue
that's the
Light
thing.
was
It's kind of like
okay, yeah,
they like go together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
it's obviously like, hey man, do that thing you do with that wall riff. Do that, and
Yeah.
I'll do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. That's the stuff I'm looking for. That scratches a really specific itch.
Right.
Blue Light was okay. Is that the one that has like a drum solo at the end? I
It's
think.
really long. It's really long.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, I can appreciate a drum solo in a live show, but I definitely
That's-
hit next as soon as I start hearing it in the CD.
You
That's
get
Simon.
that Keith Moon syndrome about solos. I hate solos. They're boring.
Yeah.
And this is obviously Simon Phillips. A lot of these, you know, sounds are, you know, really evident on and there's very specific sounds to these concerts, right? This is very much of the Who 1989 because he just wanted that sound. And I believe who we got Simon Phillips, Chicho Marchand, Peter Hope Evans. Really quick before we go on to the next one, what are your highlights of this one? Did you have any specific highlights, Tom, on this?
Looking at the track list. I'm trying to sit there and pick something that's off of, not on Deep End, I should say.
Well, yeah. That's like a thing, and this thing even on the CD is so, on the Deep End live CD is so shuffled, even not in order. Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with here. I don't have my notes.
Well, I
don't know.
before I ask bets, I am going to say that, you know, the Sea Refuses No River, because that's not on the other one.
Mhm.
Right.
I don't even think Give Blood is on that one. It's not. I really like the Won't Get Fooled Again, and I'm with Roger right now. I have a bit of Won't Get Fooled Again fatigue, right?
Yeah.
But this is my favorite one of all the ones that are on these sets.
Yeah.
Just because it comes out.
I have a hot take later.
Okay. All right. Then I'm well, and I'll have a caveat to that probably when you get to the one you get to.
Yeah.
It's on both of them. Save It for Later is the winner on this one. Like if I had to pick one,
Yeah,
Save It
yeah,
for
yeah,
Later.
yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Beth?
I have in my notes. I have, That's All Right, Mama. I put a spell on you and After the Fire. I love those. I love that Pete, like I said, again, gets to kind of explore some of his favorite songs that aren't necessarily Who related. Save It for Later was such a pleasant surprise when I first got the way back in the day, because that's one of my favorite songs ever. And I do like, I don't know if y'all know the story about like Dave Wakeling from the English Beat gets a phone call one afternoon and it's like, hey, it's Pete Townsend. Cool. I've got Dave Gilmore here. And we'd like to know how what are these chord changes? What's this? What's that? And Wakeling was just sort of like, oh, hi, But yeah, those were some of my highlights. Again, I really, really like the great big sound. I like these were fun shows. A lot of fun.
Yeah, if you find that video of Dave Wakeling telling the story online,
Hmm.
it's really funny. It's really like one of those oh yeah, sure. Yeah, it's Pete Townsend, David Gilmour calling. Sure. Uh
Yeah.
Shut up, John. Stop calling me or whatever. Shut up, my best friend is calling me. And then he's like, no, 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 it's us. We'd like to know because he couldn't figure out the tuning. And
Exactly.
and these guys, first of all, I like to imagine Pete Townsend and David Gilmour just hanging out, you know.
Yeah.
And
Kicking it.
then and do they know what impact that's going to have on another guy? Like when they do that, they have to know. They have to know. This will be fun, you know. We can't figure out the tuning. Let's do this. So
Uh,
right. All right. So that was Brixton, 1985. Chronologically, what's next?
that would be Psycho Derelict at
Brooklyn
Brooklyn
Academy.
Academy.
Okay. So if I'm ranking these, I would put Brixton kind of like in the middle, right? For me.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, so we have Brooklyn Academy Music 1993, Psycho Derelict. Not music only. Also on this tour, one of the friends of the show sent me a Beacon Theater show that sounded really good, but was a audience recording. On this one, we have Pete Townsend, Rabbit, Peter Hope Evans, Pino Palladino, Phil Palmer, Simon Phillips again, Andy Fairweather Lowe, Billy Nichols, and some actors doing some things. Bets, you go first.
I've said before, and I hate to say it, I'm not a fan of the acted out part. I'm not a fan of the play. And I know that one of the reasons why he even did this was because he felt like if he could get the play out in front of an actual audience, that maybe people would get it, and people still weren't kind of getting it. The music though is stellar, and for me, Outlive the Dinosaur is I think my favorite. But I really, the music is great, just not a fan of the play, and I'm sorry about that. So, but it was fine. It was fine. This is not my favorite show of this set.
Tom?
Yeah, I think I gave it a once through because you have to. Um, I don't even know if I went back to it again, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's not my cup of tea. I appreciate him including it because I'm sure there's somebody who enjoys it. It's just not for me.
I think it's a really good document to have. I think it came out on the live, and I think it's probably a different show, or maybe it's the same one that came out on DVD, which I have.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have it too.
Yeah, in the same run of shows. And one of them, John came out, but I don't know which one that was. Maybe that's the one Brad sent me. Yeah, here's the deal, man. It's the play, right? And more than anything, and Tom, I keep bringing up David Gilmour because I know that's where you live, right? You saw the on an Island tour,
Yeah.
2006, right? So he comes out, he does his whole album, right? And then he takes a break, comes out and does like all the Pink Floyd stuff you'd ever want to hear in your life, right?
Yep.
So this is very much that, right? I'm going to come out, I'm going to do this thing. You guys are, it, and I'll go back to this relationship with the audience, right? We expect a thing, but because you're Pete, we want you to do your Pete stuff. And there's like an exchange here. I feel like, except for a few moments, you can feel that. And it takes away something where, he really wants to do the first part. We really want to hear the second part. And, there's some really good songs on Psycho Derelict. I just, don't try to make me real. Let's Get Pretentious is always one of my favorites, right?
Yeah.
Now and Then is great.
English Boy.
English Boy's great. Yeah.
I love English Boy. I do love English Boy. This is not, I'm going to talk more about English Boy in a little while.
There's just a lot of stuff you got to wade through to hear the good stuff.
All that and Witch's Teats, right? All right, cool.
Yeah.
Say the word.
All right, I wanted to save this one for last, but we're not going to. We're going in order.
Okay.
One of my favorite CDs, basically of all time, is Pete Townshend Live at the Fillmore, 1996. I've talked about this multiple times on here before. I won't go into it. I'll hear your thoughts first. I'll just say that there was one time in my life where like it was this and Simon Townsend Band's Among Us, and the only two CDs I listened to for like almost like 6 months. So I have a lot of love and affection for everything on here. So that's what you think of it.
I really enjoyed it. I went this morning to see if I could find the Sybil Shepherd discourse. It wasn't necessarily on this disc, but I guess that was one of the Fillmore shows.
No, it's this one. I think it's this one.
Is it this one?
No, maybe it's the other one. No, maybe it's La Jolla. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, I can't remember. It was not on the streaming, so I didn't catch it, which I kind of missed. But I like it. Sheraton Gibson is one of the standouts for me. And I was reading. I want to just. One of my sources here was this book by Mark Wilkerson, which is an exhaustive biography. It's really great, and it was a huge amount of help. He talks about at one point doing Sheraton Gibson. As again, I'm not sure if it's this show. I don't think it's this show, but one of the Fillmore shows, and things about I want to go home in the song, and somebody yelled, "You are home," and then he kind of smiled and enjoyed that a great deal. He was kind of goofy on these Fillmore shows as well. Like at one point, I guess doing Rough Boys, and he kind of went out of tune, and then stopped everything, and got back into tune again. And another point during Magic Bus, stopped everything to take his shoes off, and then resumed. So I like Loosey Goosey Pete. That was pretty cool. But I'm gonna let you guys talk Fillmore because I'm saving it all for Sadler.
Oh,
Right. Tom.
Loved it. It wasn't something I'd spent a lot of time with. You had sent it to me, shared it with me online, but I just don't have a way of listening it to easily online. But I found myself like, I don't know why. I don't even think it's particularly great earworm or anything, but the shout kept getting stuck in my head for hours on end. Like if I heard it on my speaker at work, God bless, because that was the rest of the day. That thing was stuck in my head. Really love that. I mean, Slit Skirts, you can't go wrong. It was fun to hear Drifting Blues. It was really top to bottom, just a really great experience overall. And like you said, it's fun listening to Pete be Pete and unpredictable, and the reason we all love him.
Yeah.
Really quick, so John Caron was with him on this. It was a short tour. It was promoting Cool Walking, Smooth Talking, Straight Smoking, Fire Stoking, which is my favorite compilation CD of his, simply because of the 2 bonus tracks on it. Because it's not just him, like and I'll get to La Jolla when we get to it. Like there's a middle ground between the Brixton stuff, right, and the La Jolla stuff, okay? And this is the perfect mix because he's with one other musician. He's not just by himself, because when he's just by himself, I think he can go left for a little while. And I think when the versions, he does all the right Pete Townsend stuff, but when you get to things like Now and Then, because John Caron is there, it is so on point as far as sounding like a professional, professional stuff, not just like Pete Townsend, nerd stuff, right? Which
Yeah.
there's plenty on here for that, but
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, this is what I do. This is professionalism, but I'm also going to be silly and talking in the middle, and it's a great mix. The stuff is funny without being a little gross. As far as banter goes, the rework of English Boy, like this is the first time I heard a bunch of these songs. So the remix, this is my favorite version of English Boy by far. It is, I think, the best Heart to Hang On To that's ever been put down.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh yeah.
I Am an Animal is amazing on this. And it's like my favorite Rough Boys too. It's a lot of my favorite things. I could go off on this CD for like a long time, and I just have, and I have in the past. So it's kind of one of my desert islands. So it's the top one for me by far. And I think Matt, Kent, and Brian, who have both been on Brian from Atlanta, Brian and Katie, were both at this concert,
Cool.
if I remember. And so
Nice.
the crowd is another thing. You could tell the crowd were up for it. Pete wasn't doing that many shows, so they all traveled from far and wide to get to this concert, and the interaction with the crowd is great, especially when, I guess my favorite interaction is like, my favorite part is when you guys shout out all the stuff, because it's like, why am I even here? Because you bought everything already. I must be here because I want to be. And
Yeah.
It's very sweet, and he's having the most fun on the set. I think it's great.
Got it real quick. When you mentioned the shout, it was like there's a really funny story about, I guess Roger was doing a show and he got Pete and John to do it, but Pete was sort of like, I don't want to be out there with the three. We're not doing the Who, so we'll come out separate and all that stuff. And Roger was like, it was a charity event kind of thing. And Roger was like, okay, pick the song you want to do. And Pete said the shout, and Roger was like, no one knows that song. Like, what do you know? He got really,
And he ended up doing,
band is obscene, but Pete ended up doing
Who Are You, right?
And I Moved Instead. But Pete likes
right.
the shout. Roger's
Pete
not
likes the shout.
so sold on it.
Okay, so where are we at? We're at the Empire. Is that it?
Yeah. Shepherd's
this
Bush
was
Empire. Coming
Pete
off
Townsend.
the Hyde Park show.
This was okay. So this is the same kind of tour that this Maryville Academy came out as, and Pete Townsend Magic Bus, and the when he did Woodstock that year at the Bethel Arts Fair or whatever. For me personally, like, because there's no drummer and it's basically just Jody Linscott and everything seems to have the exact same like chugging rhythm. For me personally, it's like with everything with Pete. Like, I like it, but I like it less than other stuff. So
That's where I'm at. Yeah. Is this the one with the rapper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be.
He's good.
It's the rapper. Yeah.
I was not expecting the rapper.
Yeah, when that came in, I was like, "What?" And yeah, there wasn't.
Hey man, God bless you.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't find myself dipping into the well here a ton. Yeah. Fillmore definitely, and then La Jolla definitely for me were the ones I find myself kept going back to. There's nothing bad on it by any means. The rapper, like, again, God bless for, the guy trying to stay relevant, and obviously he's always been into music that's coming out new and paying attention to it. So
yeah,
if he wants to find himself trying to do it, God bless, good for him. Doesn't do anything for me, but
yeah.
Hey, I respect it.
And it's not like, it's not, actually I love rap, but it's just weird. It's like, it's not weird. It's just unexpected and kind of jarring,
Okay, cool. All right. So we are at Sadler's Wells.
Sadler's Wells. This was my favorite by far. I will be listening to this forever. I loved it. Absolutely 100% on board.
You know what the
And I'm a
weird
sucker for orchestration.
you know what the weird earworm is on this one for me? Just the don't cry, don't brace your eye, it's only Teenage Wasteland at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
Oh,
I get
on Teenage Wasteland?
from the song Teenage Wasteland.
Yeah.
It just gets stuck in there for some reason. But yeah. Um, Tom, we'll get your impressions, I'll get my impressions, and we'll let Bets go off because I know he's got something to say about this.
Yeah, this was actually a really good listen. Something I'd never heard any of. I definitely have like a gap in the Lifehouse stuff. I was still a little young on the internet at that point when you could get your hands on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a really good listen. I definitely spent a lot of time with it. I'd like to spend more time with it. Um, just even like the orchestral Baba O'Reilly was like, oh my God, this is great.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shows how good Pete is. You know what I mean? Like these songs are great no matter how they're played. Um, and it's really amazing. So it was fun to listen to and listen to it in order and pay attention to it. Um, yeah, I'd love to spend more time with this.
I'm kind of surprised this wasn't included in the box set.
Right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I
The
think that's
Lifehouse,
probably,
yeah.
yeah, The Who, and this is under Pete, I assume. I love it. I think I have a DVD. I think they did release a DVD of the live show of this. And I've watched it a couple times, and my favorite thing is always Bargain because it's literally just that backing track without the
It
drums,
is.
right?
It is. Yeah.
And it's him using that original like clapping thing and just him playing along with it. He doesn't play any electric on this, right?
He doesn't play electric, I think, on practically anything
Right.
on any of these, does he? I mean, if it is,
A song or two.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because he said he didn't want to play electric because he was afraid that he would just become like so obsessed with playing the electric guitar, he would sort of neglect everything else. So I
Right.
think, and probably the hearing has a lot to do with it as well.
I found myself this was the one I was listening to where I was like, oh man, I really like The Who. I forgot. And these things are really good. I really like the experiments. I'm not going to say which ones I skipped because I don't want to get murdered, right? But I would get murdered. It's not bad. I think in this particular set, it's a beautiful song, okay, and I do like it. But I skipped Greyhound Girl.
No, no.
She's gonna hate me.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It was just that once though, because I want to talk about the whole set. But I usually don't. I did find myself skipping a lot of songs that were repeated on all the sets.
Mhm.
Like again, there's only so many. I love "Let My Love Open the Door," but I don't need to hear it 18 times like in a row to review this. So I would actually put this as my second favorite of the whole thing,
Mhm.
after the Fillmore. Bets.
Number one for me, and
Did you like
and this, yeah, number one. It's a number one off the charts, 5 stars. 5 popcorn bags. It is. I'm gonna jump off and say using "Let My Love Open the Door" and "Greyhound Girl," that especially great. I let this thing just stream and stream and stream. And when "Greyhound Girl" came on, man, that was when I was like, hey, wait a minute. "Let My Love Open the Door" and "Greyhound Girl" are both really simple songs, and for me, and I know Pete dismisses "Let My Love Open the Door" because it is so simple, but for me, those simple songs are my favorites. They're just so sublime. And I'm going to say one thing about the shows is apparently some critics spotted John in the crowd, and John was into it. So if John's into it, it's a good show. But yeah, this was to promote. I think Lifehouse was back in Pete's mind, and he did Lifehouse Chronicles, which was the box set. Then there was the Lifehouse Method that you could order, and you could get that little code to create your own loop like Baba O'Reilly. And then there was Lifehouse Elements, which was the sort of basic set you could buy. And I played the hell out of that when it came out. So that whole intro with the shamisen and Hiroshima, and then the orchestral Baba O'Reilly. That just got me going right out of the gate. And it was a really, just a quick aside though, what's interesting is I could never fit, I know Sister Disco is supposed to be Lifehouse canon, but I could never figure out why. And then I went back and did some more reading on Lifehouse, and in Pete's mind, it's always been what, you know, an ongoing kind of growing project for him.
Sure.
And so, like, I'm like, why would Sister Disco be part of that? You know, in 1978, when it's expressing disco and all, you know, it wasn't around in 1971. But I guess in his mind, he just keeps pulling elements into Lifehouse. And I forget, yeah, when we get to La Jolla, there's something else, but you know, but I feel like, you know, I don't know. I love Sadler's. Greyhound Girl is just wonderful. He did want Roger back for this show, but Roger was already committed to another series of shows, so he couldn't do it. And that would have been interesting to have brought Roger in. But again, if John liked it, I liked it, and we're good. But I love Sadler as well. So I think, and Greyhound Girl is perfection.
I think, but it's the same thing. It's like, Who Are You?
Mm-hmm.
And Bob O'Reilly things show up in Psycho Derelict, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of my things about Psycho Derelict. I get really pumped when those things show up, so it makes me annoyed that I'm not getting pumped about newer things.
And Psycho Derelict has a lot of elements of Lifehouse too, with the grid and all that kind of thing. So it's, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Great show. Okay, so La Jolla. My plan was for these things was to listen to the first La Jolla show, listen to the rest of the box set, and listen to the second La Jolla show.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my memory serves me, I like the second one way better. But this time around, I crammed a little too late. I didn't get to hear any of the La Jolla second show. I need you guys to turn me around on these, because you know the banter in the first La Jolla show kind of turns me off to listening to La Jolla shows. Maybe that's a personal thing. What do you know? Bets La Jolla.
La Jolla was my second favorite,
Okay.
and part of it was just the sort of the loose nature of the whole thing. And I, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I am a fan of the Pete banter. You know, I told y'all back when we saw him in 2022, and Roger had that issue and left the stage, and of course Pete went. He went ham and just talked and talked. And one of my friends turned to me and said I could listen to him all night. He is very, very funny, genuinely funny, and the whole bit about the wedding and you know, and talking about the guy with the guitar, and then what really kept it. There were a couple of things: the John Sebastian story about Mr. Tie-Dye Man, and then the Keith story about Mr. Right Hand Man. And I'm driving the car, and then, you know, the last bit where he talks about John, and John's still alive at this point. So this is a little tribute, you know, not a memorial, basically saying, you know, John, how supportive John was when they were kids. And he's like, he didn't have to be enthusiastic, he didn't have to encourage me, he just was quiet and supported me and all that. I'm a fan of the banter, big fan of the banter.
Was that the second show?
I'm not sure because I'm streaming it. I didn't have the notes in front of me.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell which disc they're doing when they're.
Yeah, but I'm a big, you know, I stop and I run over and turn up my sound bar real high so I can hear the banter. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very funny and very clever.
I love banter in general, but something about that first show's banter I didn't like.
And the Blink 182 stuff and all that.
Yeah, the drummer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stamina.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Tom, you liked them a lot, right?
I did. I tell you what, this came out when I was on vacation and we were on a road trip, so there's a lot of driving involved. And there was a point where I got to this. I put this on when I hopped in the car. My wife was going to take a nap while I was driving, and so I listened to this straight through, like zoned in, just driving 80 miles, on one highway for a long time. And it was great. The banter was perfect. It kept me engaged. It was funny. It's just great Pete Townsend stuff. And I love like the I've heard every song so many times. I've heard all the versions. So to hear like this super, super stripped down version is incredible.
Yeah.
It's just a testament to how good of a musician he is, period. You know what I mean? He's playing things not the right way. You can tell it just flows out of him.
Yeah.
And I say the right way, I mean like it's not played how it is on this, on the original recording. Like the guy can just play it however he wants, whenever he wants, without even thinking, which is incredible. And then like you get to, I think it's the last CD. He talks about John Lee Hooker passed away the night before, and he does, I think, Drifting Blues, and then he goes into Eyesight to the Line, and then Won't Get Fooled Again, Electric. Like that little set right there is amazing. And I think he does Electric, Won't Get Fooled Again twice, and both times he just beats the crud out of the guitar. I mean, you can just hear him going nuts on it.
Yeah.
And there is a large amount of money I would pay to see that in person. You know what I mean? Just Pete Townsend, electric guitar, doing his thing and beating the hell out of it. And,
Yeah.
I sent it to my one buddy who's a big guitar player. It's like, this is it. This is what I want.
Right. It sounds like it's the thing I got to go back and listen to.
Yeah, it's the informality of the show too. I mean, he muffs some lyrics like big time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But nobody's bothered by that, and you can tell he's sort of like. I think "I Cut My Hair" is the one, but yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. Almost.
I don't go see the Who live for it to be perfect.
Exactly.
I love when it goes off the rails.
As I said, when I saw him in 2022, it's like the band, chaos is the band's trademark.
Yeah.
There's nobody complaining back in Cal Palace '74 that Keith Moon passed out. Dude, he passed out, and some guy got up there and played. So yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I guess I'm leaving La Jolla off my list, so I can actually listen to the second CD. So for me, it's going to be Fillmore, Sadler's, Brixton, Empire, and then Brooklyn Academy of Music, I think. How about you guys?
It's probably the same, but La Jolla first.
La Jolla first, okay. Yep.
And I don't know if it's better or not. I think it's just, for me, it's new and it's good.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I love the band to death, and there's peaks and valleys of my interest and how much I listen to them for sure. But again, like you said, how many times can I hear that Love Will Open My Door and all that stuff? Like, okay, yeah, there's just fatigue on some of the stuff, but this was just La Jolla for me was just enough new versions of things, and never hearing it that way before, for me to be like, I'm into this. So I definitely listened to it multiple times.
Right on. Bets.
Number one is Sadler's for me.
Yeah.
Number two, La Jolla. I'm going to say Brixton. The other two are fine. I don't know that, I'll probably revisit them at some point, but those are the three that were really standouts for me. Sadler's being far heads and shoulders above everything. Just love Sadler. Love it.
And I think the main takeaway is that even our lowest ranked on this list is still better than any other CD ever put out by anybody else.
It's true. Beatles who? What?
What?
Yeah.
So yeah, buy it.
Get it. Yeah, absolutely. Run out and get that.
Don't run away, don't let me down. Sooner or later, you hit the deck, you get found out.